ahead of us. I'm sure there's going to be lots of brilliant deliberations, but you're also going to hear a few updates today too, and I'll go through the agenda in a moment. But first of all, just a reminder of who's with us in the room. So we have Ruth, the convener, with us, and Ruth, I think, is going to just say hello in a moment. We also have some people from the stewarding group who are here to observe today, as well as our brilliant facilitation team, support team, evidence leads, some of the secretariat, and some of the research team as well. So quite a few folks with us today. Just a reminder, as always, please do contact the support team if you need any help whatsoever. They're there to help you with any tech issues or anything else at all, so you're always welcome to get in touch with them. And as always, just a reminder about viewing options, because we will be seeing a video today, that if you look at the top right-hand corner of your screen, you can change the way that you view the videos and the way that the Zoom screen is set up in front of you if you wanted to make things a little bit bigger. So please do use that if you would like to. Okay, Ruth, I'm going to hand over to you just to say a quick hello.
So thank you, Kelly. It's just great to be here this morning, and I'm going to be joining the diet stream this afternoon, but really just for me, on behalf of Josh and me, who are the co-conveners, to say thank you again for your commitment to this process. We realise this is a fairly momentous stage now as you begin to craft and draft and hone the recommendations. So we're with you all the way. And supporting you, and we know you're hugely well supported by the facilitators and the whole team around you. So thank you very much for your commitment and for your vision as we craft the future of Scotland together. Back to you, Kelly.
Super, thanks, Ruth. Okay, I'm just going to go through the agenda for today, and then I'm going to hand over to Kevin Anderson, who's the evidence lead with us today. So, what are we doing? So what we're going to be doing this morning, the first thing we're going to do is hear an update and a presentation on the Scottish Climate Change Plan. And then after that, there'll be an opportunity for a live question and answer session with Ian Doherty from the University of Stirling. So that Q&A session will work in the same way as it worked yesterday. You'll be able to post questions in the chat, and we'll take as many as we can during the time this morning. You'll then have some time within your groups to reflect a little bit on what you've heard in that session and what it means for the goals and the recommendations that you're making. And you can expect a comfort break around 11:20 a.m. this morning for about 10 minutes. Then after that break, we'll be coming back and we'll be having another information carousel. So hopefully you really enjoyed that process yesterday. We had lots of great feedback. So we'll be doing that, and we'll be focusing on travel with the experts there. And then we'll have a lunch break, and that'll be from 12:30 to 2 p.m. today. And just a reminder that if you haven't had a chance to vote yet on the assembly business we discussed yesterday, you have until 2 p.m. to do that vote, but we've had lots and lots through already. But just a reminder that the support team are there if you would benefit from a quick call to go through the survey with them. And then we'll be coming back at 2 o'clock for this afternoon. So the first thing we'll do this afternoon is just a very brief presentation on the fairness propositions and how that vote went. Because if you remember, a couple of weeks ago, you did a little vote on what the fairness propositions were and which ones you'd like to form a kind of checklist as we go through the rest of the process. We'll also take a moment to pause and to have a short presentation. What does a good goal or recommendation look like? And really the purpose of that is to help you bear in mind some of the elements that you might want to consider as you're going through the rest of the drafting process, just to make sure those goals and those recommendations are really clear, crisp, and hit the mark and convey what it is that you want to convey. You'll then be spending a good chunk of time within your groups reviewing the goals and recommendations from across the work stream. Because what we're getting to by the end of today really is a set of things that we are going to be able to take through to next weekend when we present to the whole assembly. So to do that, you need to do a little bit of reviewing, a little bit of refinement, and we'd be really interested to hear from you this weekend too. So we've built in some time to hear a bit of member feedback within this work stream from each of the 5 groups, just around the review and goals and recommendations and what's come out of that. And then you'll spend the remainder of the afternoon in groups just agreeing on proposals that you may be making around new goals that you'd like to add. So when you do that review process, you might be looking at everything as a whole. You might be thinking, this goal should be merged with this one. And indeed, some of you have already commented on that. So your facilitators are aware of where that's been logged. But you might want to propose new things because you see something really, really missing that needs to be in there. So in that case, you can propose some new goals, and you can also propose any substantive changes to recommendations. But we'll need to do a decision-making process within our groups to agree that those changes are acceptable to you. And then at the end of the day, I'll give you some information about what will be happening between this weekend and next weekend, because there will be an opportunity for you to participate further between weekends, so that when we come back at the start of weekend 6, there's a clear set of stuff that you will be presenting back to the rest of the assembly from this work stream. As always, just a quick reminder of the conversation guidelines. And as you know, there's quite a few of them, but just a few key ones to highlight. Please ensure in your groups just one person speaking at a time. Please do listen to what everyone has to say and encourage people to participate. Please do give everyone a chance to speak and time and space to do so. And as always, be open to changing your mind. Okay, so that's what we're doing today. And of course, your facilitators will be there to guide you through the process, and do flag any questions you have as they come up. Kevin, I'm going to hand over to you now to introduce the Scottish Climate Change Plan section.
Mute myself.
You're all good.
Okay, great. Let me just, I've got this one slide here. This one. So let me just share screen then, and I think it's that one there.
Oh, super. Thanks, Kevin.
Well,
Thanks for persevering.
For that. Cancel. Let me just cancel that. That can go. So let me just see. Hopefully, you can see that. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Sure can.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right then. So you're all aware that obviously Scotland has a climate change plan, but what you may or may not be quite so aware of is that it was the 2018 plan has been updated, and that actually update has occurred since the assembly started. So it's worth sort of perhaps potentially just reflecting on that, and that's what we're going to get in the next presentation. The new update, which Chris referred to yesterday in the plenary, Chris Stark, it sets out a whole suite of policies to reduce emissions within Scotland. But what it doesn't do, and again, Chris was quite clear about this, it doesn't actually quantify what those reductions are, how much they're going to deliver. So there's not a lot of detail actually on the reductions. It just gives you the range of potential policy options that can be considered that weren't there in the original climate change plan. So what we don't know is whether those reductions and those policies that are being proposed will actually meet the 2030 or the 2045 targets for Scotland, or even indeed the Paris commitment framings either. So we're not aware of any of that, and that's something you may want to think about and reflect on. Is maybe have a quick review of the update, and that might help some of the members and help you think about some of the recommendations and where the update actually falls short, and where potentially some of the recommendations could try to fill in the gaps that there clearly are in the update. And again, this is almost like a request, a plea, if you like, that Chris made yesterday in his presentation. Now, we have now a talk about the, let me just close this down so I get back to you all again. Stop sharing. Okay, so we've now got, and now I think on your slides, Kelly, you said we now had Ian Doherty, but I thought we had Fabrice Levesque next, was my understanding.
We sure do, but via video.
Yeah, via video. There's a video, yeah, that's correct. And there's a video link now to that. So there's a presentation from Fabrice, which we're going to go over in a bit more detail of those, of the update and so forth. So I'll pass you over now to Fabrice via the video.
Right, so I'm just going to give you a short explanation about what's happening next, but of course you experienced the carousel yesterday, so it's the same setup, the same format. So what we're going to be doing now is we're actually going to be returning to questions 1 and 2 that you began looking at the beginning of weekend 4. So just a reminder of what those questions were. The first one was, how should Scotland change how it travels by land to tackle the climate emergency in an effective and fair way? And the second one was, how should Scotland change how it travels by air to tackle the climate emergency in an effective and fair way? And there was also, of course, we touched on travel by sea too. So once you've had time in your groups to remind yourself of the content, what it was that you covered, you're going to have an hour where 4 experts will rotate through the breakout rooms, and they'll be able to provide you with additional information and answer questions that you have regarding the proposed areas for recommendations that you're most interested in. Just as they did yesterday, they're going to spend 10 minutes in each group. So Kevin in a moment is going to tell you who they are. But this is really just a reminder, designed to help you think back on what you've done, to really focus in on your priorities. And by priorities, we mean the things that you think have the most potential to have an impact on delivering fair and effective change to tackle the climate emergency. I also just wanted to give a bit of a reminder that, remember, you don't have to agree with everything that experts have to say. You're very welcome to ask questions, to challenge, and to remember that experts themselves sometimes don't agree with each other either. So please do use that time and ask all the questions that you want to ask, but bear that in mind as you do. Okay, Kevin, I'm going to hand over to you, and you're going to do some introductions, and then we'll.
Okay, thanks. Hopefully a little bit smoother than last time. And I should also say, because I think I did say this yesterday, but this is a different group, I think. I apologise for my appearance at the moment, in that I am actually in bed, because I broke my hip quite badly cycling. So it was touching on some of the discussions earlier, and so I'm stuck in a bed for the next few weeks. So it's not that I'm just being lazy; it's just that I'm actually bed bound for a couple of months or so. So we're going to focus here on travelling. And I think we'll go straight to this slide here. So I think what we know, we've already spent a lot of time, or you've already spent a lot of time focusing on travel, and you've developed sets of recommendations and so forth that we're going to talk about more today. And today is really about revisiting and refining these recommendations, and to help you do that, to think those things through. Really very much noting what Kelly said, that as experts we often don't agree. And it's also perfectly reasonable for you to have your views that may well sometimes be much better informed than ours. But anyway, we have three experts today, and a fourth person, me. I have some expertise, but not as much as the others. First, we have Ian Doherty. Well, you've just heard Ian today, and in fact, we heard him in weekend 2 as well. And he has a sort of wide portfolio of understanding on the issues of transport and travel, and particularly Scotland's emissions across the different modes. We have there we go. We have John Launder from Sustrans. So if you're thinking about issues to do with planning, and so forth, and how that plays out within travel, and of course we have to recognise in addressing climate change that these are that we have to sort of think about the system rather than just the individual bits. So planning our towns, our infrastructure, and so forth is actually key when we think about travel. We've got Gillian Annabelle, who was also spoke previously from the University of Leeds, and she can give you some sort of guidance on how we might be able to reduce our emissions from travel. And then there's myself from the University of Manchester, and I'm quite interested in sort of how we reduce our cuts fairly and rapidly from land, sea, and air. So you've got these 4 or 3 plus 1 experts here. So feel free to question them and probe them in trying to refine and revisit and refine your recommendations. Just to go over the questions again, remember it's about how Scotland should change its travel by land to tackle the climate emergency in an effective and fair way. And the important parts there: climate emergency, effective and fair, but also in relation to air travel as well. How should Scotland change how it travels by air to tackle the climate emergency in an effective and fair way? So I think we can now go on to the carousel.
Sure can. And just a reminder before we do, you are due a comfort break at 11:20. The lunch break will be from 12:30 till 2. And please do make sure that you have voted before the end of the lunch break if you haven't had a chance to do that already. And we will see you again back here this afternoon. You're going to be in your breakouts for the rest of the morning.